Once upon a time, Captain America was a well-known Marvel superhero, but honestly, his popularity was well below his other Marvel contemporaries like Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men. The success of the first Iron Man movie, which kicked off the MCU, played a pivotal role in helping the status of Captain America. Marvel head honcho Kevin Feige had set about a plan in motion to create an expanded Marvel film universe with three key figures as its main anchors: Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Captain America undeniably had one of the strongest solo movie runs amongst the Avengers. His trilogy, The First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and the topic of today's video, Civil War, offered consistent quality and significant character development. Each film tackled distinct themes: heroism during wartime, espionage and betrayal, and ideological conflict, all while remaining deeply tied to the overarching MCU narrative. The Winter Soldier in particular is often regarded as one of the best MCU films due to its gripping story, political undertones, and excellent story action sequences. Civil War further elevated the franchise by serving as both a personal story. Captain America Civil War was loosely adapted from the Civil War comic book storyline written by Mark Millar in 2006 to 2007. While the movie and the comic share the central conflict of superheroes being divided over government regulation, the details and scale differ significantly. In the comics, the conflict is triggered by a tragedy involving young superheroes, leading to the Superhuman Registration Act. This law forces all superheroes to reveal their identities and register with the government. Iron Man supports it, while Captain America opposes it, leading to a massive clash between the two factions. The comic book storyline is sprawling, involving nearly every Marvel hero, secret identities, and heavy casualties. The movie adapts the core concept but ties it to the MCU's continuity. The Sokovia Accords replaced the Registration Act, addressing accountability after the destruction which was caused by the Avengers during the events of Age of Ultron. The conflict remains personal, with the addition of Bucky Barnes as a central figure and a smaller scale battle involving fewer heroes. Despite these differences, the film captures the emotional and ideological tension of the original comic. Steve Rogers and a pivotal event for the entire MCU compared to the other Avengers solo movies, Captain America's trilogy stands out for its balance of emotional depth, tight storytelling, and character progression. The movie expanded its scope far beyond a typical solo film, feeling more like a mini Avengers movie. The cast of characters was huge, which included Iron Man, Black Widow, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Vision, War Machine, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man. And then there was the introduction of two major new characters to the MCU, Black Panther and Spider-Man. Each character had a meaningful role with their personal stakes, contributing to the ideological divide between Team Captain America and Team Iron Man. The movie's airport battle scene is often regarded as one of the MCU's most iconic moments, showcasing the clash between the heroes in a thrilling and character-driven way. The sheer number of heroes and the high stakes made it feel like a direct continuation of the Avengers storyline. Essentially, it was Avengers 3 in all but its name. However, the absence of Hulk and Thor was very noticeable, as both characters had been key players in the previous Avenger films. Their exclusion was explained in universe, as Thor was off dealing with the events in Thor Ragnarok, while Hulk's location remained unknown, which set up his eventual return in Thor Ragnarok as well. Their absence did shift the dynamic, but it also allowed the focus to remain on the ideological conflict between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, which solidified the film as an intimate yet larger scale chapter in the MCU. Captain America Civil War is often regarded as a superior film to Avengers Age of Ultron due to its tighter storytelling and deeper emotional stakes, and its ability to balance a large ensemble cast a lot more effectively. Now, while Age of Ultron attempted to juggle multiple storylines, introducing new characters like Vision and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, while setting up future MCU arcs like the Infinity War, at times it felt like they were just cramming too much into this one movie. But in contrast to Civil War delivered a more focused narrative centered on the ideological conflict between Captain America and Iron Man. The personal stakes rooted in friendship, loyalty and guilt gave the film a compelling and emotional weight. There was the character dynamic. Civil War excelled in managing its ensemble, giving nearly every character a meaningful role. The film seamlessly introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther while continuing the arcs of established characters like Bucky Barnes and Scarlet Witch and Vision. The central conflict felt organic, driven by character motivations rather than external threats. And by comparison, Age of Ultron's focus on Ultron as the villain sometimes detracted away from the characters' interpersonal relationships. There was the action and the stakes. The iconic airport battle in Civil War is arguably one of the MCU's most memorable set pieces, which balanced the humour and emotion and action with a clear sense of stakes, and a little bit of tragedy. While Age of Ultron had impressive action sequences, the large-scale destruction in Sokovia felt less personal and impactful compared to the emotionally charged battles that we saw in Civil War. There's the themes and the impact. Civil War's ability to balance out an ensemble cast, deliver a gripping narrative, and leave a lasting impact on the MCU makes it a more cohesive and satisfying film than Age of Ultron. There's the strong, multi-layered storylines. The writing for Captain America's character arc across the MCU was exceptional, blending his personal journey with broader themes. Each film in his trilogy explored different facets of Steve Rogers. In the first Avengers, Steve was introduced as a man with courage and conviction long before he gains his superpowers. The film emphasizes his humanity, showing how his values drive him more than his physical abilities ever could. In The Winter Soldier, Steve grapples with trust, betrayal and the loss of the world he once knew, whilst questioning the ethics of modern-day surveillance and control. The film shifted his character into a complex, morally conscious hero. In Civil War, Steve's loyalty to his friends and his personal principles bring him into conflict with Tony Stark and the government. The writing highlights the ideological clash between personal freedom and collective accountability, with Steve standing firm even as it costs him everything. The Captain America trilogy went a long way to establish Captain America as one of the top superheroes, not just in the realm of Marvel, but the entire universe of superheroes. It is not inconceivable to include him in the top 5, never mind top 10 of the all-time greats. The creation of the MCU solidified Cap as one of the greatest heroes of all time. Now, thanks in large part to the combination of the brilliance of Chris Evans' performances and the excellent storytelling, Captain America was transformed into a hero fans admired, related to, and cheered for, and cemented its place as one of the MCU's greatest successes. Now I will segue into a summary of the movie with the key highlighted points, so away we go. The movie begins with a time jump to 1991. When the brainwashed super soldier James Bucky Barnes is dispatched from a Hydra base in Siberia to intercept an automobile carrying a case of super soldier serum, and the occupants of this vehicle will play a vital role in changing the stance of the Avengers. In the present day, a number of Avengers, Captain America, Natasha Romanoff the Black Widow, Sam Wilson the Falcon, Wanda Maximoff Scarlet Witch are in Lagos, Nigeria to stop Brock Romulo from stealing a biological weapon from a lab. And in the chaos, Romulo blows himself up and tries to kill Rogers in the process. Maximoff telekinetically diverts the explosion, but accidentally diverts it to a nearby building and kills several Wakandan humanitarian workers, and the process is shown across the world, and it leaves the Avengers in a very serious situation. Thaddeus Ross, the US Secretary of State, informs the Avengers that United Nations is preparing to pass the Sokovia Accords, which will establish the UN panel to oversee and control the team. The Avengers are completely divided on this issue. Tony Stark supports the oversight because of his role in Ultron's creation and the devastation in Sokovia, while Steve Rogers has more faith in his own judgment than that of politicians. Meanwhile, Helmut Zemo tracks down and kills Bucky Barnes' old Hydra handler, stealing a book containing the trigger words that activate Barnes' brainwashing. At a UN conference in Vienna where the Accords are to be ratified, a bomb blows up King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Security footage indicates that the bomber is in fact Bucky Barnes, whom T'Chaka's son T'Challa has vowed to get his revenge on. Informed by Sharon Carter of Barnes' whereabouts and the authorities' intentions to kill him, Steve Rogers decides to bring in Barnes, his childhood friend and war comrade, all by himself. Rogers and Wilson, the Falcon, track Barnes down to Bucharest and attempt to protect him from T'Challa and the authorities. but all four of them, including T'Challa, are apprehended by the Bucharest police and James Rhodes, aka War Machine. Now, impersonating a psychiatrist sent to interview Bucky Barnes, Helmut Zemo recites the words to activate Barnes' brainwashing. He questions Barnes and then sends him on a rampage to cover his own escape. Rogers stops Barnes and sneaks him away, while Barnes regains his senses. He explains that Zemo is the real Vienna bomber and wanted the location of the Siberian Hydra base, where other brainwashed Winter Soldiers are kept in cryogenic stasis. Unwilling to wait for authorization to apprehend Zemo, Rogers and Wilson go rogue and they recruit Maximoff, Clint Barton and Scott Lang aka Ant-Man to aid with their cause. With Ross's permission, Stark assembles a team composed of Romanoff, T'Challa, Rhodes, Vision and Peter Parker to capture the Renegades. Stark's team intercepts Rogers' group at the Leipzig airport, where they fight until Romanoff allows Rogers and Barnes to escape. As Rogers and Barnes are escaping, Rhodes is inadvertently shot down by Vision and becomes partially paralyzed. The rest of Rogers' team is captured and detained at the Rout prison, and Romanoff goes into exile. Stark discovers evidence that Barnes was framed by Zemo and convinces Sam Wilson to give him Rogers' destination. Without informing Ross, Stark goes to the Siberian Hydra facility and strikes a truce with both Rogers and Barnes, both of them unaware that they were secretly being followed by T'Challa. They find that the other super soldiers have been taken out by Zemo, who then shows the footage that reveals that the automobile Barnes had intercepted in 1991 contained Tony Stark's parents, whom Barnes subsequently took out. Enraged that Rogers knew about this and kept it from him, Tony turns on them both, leading to an intense and brutal fight in which Stark destroys Bucky's robotic arm, and Rogers disables Stark's armor. Rogers then departs with Barnes, leaving his shield behind after being goaded by Tony. Completely satisfied that he has avenged his family's deaths in Sokovia from the Avengers' actions by successfully taking them apart, Zemo attempts suicide, but then he is stopped by T'Challa and taken to the authorities. In the aftermath, Stark provides Rhodes with the exoskeletal leg that allows him to walk again, while Rogers breaks his allies out of the Rat prison. In a mid-credits post-scene, Barnes is granted asylum in Wakanda and chooses to return to cryogenic sleep until the cure for his brainwashing can be found. And the movie comes to an end. Even though it was a solo film for Captain America, the key characters involved made it more of a team-up ensemble. Civil War was such a big production and it had a massive cast with each member playing a character that made a significant contribution to the film. Now I will discuss the stars. Now it is quite a long list to go through, but I will discuss the actors and their roles within the movie of Civil War. Chris Evans, playing the titular hero Captain America with an emotional arc of torn between his duties as a hero, his personal political beliefs, and his loyalty and friendship to both Tony Stark and Bucky Barnes. Robert Downey Jr., the heart and soul of the MCU, returning as Iron Man and Cap's friend turned main antagonist in arguably his most emotionally driven performance seen in the MCU. Scarlett Johansson returns as the former assassin turned Avenger Black Widow, fighting alongside Tony against Steve, putting her in something of a very complicated dilemma. Jeremy Renner returns as the Master Archer Hawkeye, and he joins up with Cap on this occasion. Sebastian Stan, a key figure in the Civil War movie, he plays the tortured Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, one of the key components of the fracture of the Avengers. Anthony Mackie makes his second outing as Sam Wilson, also known as the Falcon, and he pledges his allegiance alongside Cap. Don Cheadle plays the role of James Rhodes aka War Machine and Tony's best friend, and of course he's on Tony's side of the conflict. Paul Bettany plays the former Jarvis AI turned Avenger Vision in his most compelling turn so far, balancing loyalty with love and his continued personal involvement with the Avengers. Elizabeth Olsen plays the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. Her role in the movie is another key component in the fracture of the Avengers as she struggles to deal with the responsibilities of being an Avenger and her ever-evolving powers and her relationship with Vision. Paul Rudd makes his second appearance in the MCU as Ant-Man. He serves as the light-hearted relief in an otherwise intense affair. His transformation into Giant Man is one of the movie's main highlights. Emily Van Camp plays Sharon Carter, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent turned CIA operative and the niece of Peggy Carter, who is on the side of Steve and secretly assists him in his mission. Tom Holland, the third live-action Spider-Man, making his MCU debut and laying the foundation for his future trilogy of movies. He's recruited by Tony and fights alongside him against Captain America. Chadwick Boseman, another major debut, with Boseman donning the mantle of the Black Panther on a quest for revenge following his father's death, which sees him aligned with Tony going up against Cap, and the man responsible for his vengeance is Bucky the Winter Soldier. Boseman gives a solid display for the character, and the movie served as his launching pad for his own solo run. Daniel Bruhl plays the main villain of the story, Helmut Zemo, a former colonel turned vengeance-seeking terrorist with plans to tear the Avengers apart from within due to his lack of superpowers. Bruhl does well to play the villain whom at the heart of his vengeance is a man who has lost his loved ones. He seeks to avenge their deaths following the events of Age of Ultron. Martin Freeman, who plays CIA operative Everett Ross, a character with a long-standing association with Black Panther in the comics, and he would play an important role in the upcoming Black Panther movies. Late grade actor William Hurt plays Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, a former US Army general and the key figure at the heart of the Sokovia Accords, a more political figure who is very much for the Avengers being brought under government control. Frank Grillo, who plays the former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent turned Hydra soldier Brock Romolo. His role in the movie is brief, appearing at the start, seeking vengeance for what occurred during the events of Winter Soldier. As I said earlier, a massive ensemble cast with each character playing an important role with varying amounts of screen time attributed. Captain America Civil War was first released on April 12, 2016 at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood, Los Angeles. The movie was made on a budget of an astonishing $250 million, and with the film's success grossed around already $1.15 billion, it was the highest grossing film of the year 2016. Civil War had already made around $737.8 million a month after its first release, which beat the entire theatrical gross of its predecessor, The Winter Soldier, which made $714.4 million. It stands as the 10th highest grossing superhero film of all time. After the success of The Winter Soldier and Civil War, Joe and Anthony Russo were entrusted with directing the massive follow-ups in Infinity War and Endgame. Both movies would go on to set even more unprecedented box office records. The critical response for Civil War was largely positive, with Rotten Tomatoes reporting an approval rating of 91%, with an average score of 7.7 out of 10, based on 430 reviews. Metacritic averaged a score of around 75 out of 100 based on 53 critics, indicating generally favourable reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an A grade on an A+ to F scale, while Post-Track reported filmgoers gave it an 88% overall positive score and a 75% definite recommend. Justin Chang of Variety called it the most mature and substantive picture to have yet emerged from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It also won a number of awards, including the 2016 Teen Choice Awards for Best Sci-Fi Movie and Best Actor, which were won by Chris Evans. Evans also won the 2017 Kids' Choice Awards for Favorite Butt Kicker. Robert Downey Jr. walked away with the 2016 People's Choice Awards for Favorite Action Movie Actor, and Tom Holland won the Best Performance by a Younger Actor at the 2017 Saturn Awards. Just to bring my video to a close, Captain America Civil War is a masterful blend of action, drama, and character-driven storytelling that reshapes the MCU, leaving a lasting emotional and narrative impact. It for me cemented Captain America as a true A-list hero with plenty of emotional character depth. He wasn't just a one-dimensional soldier boy. He had an unwavering sense of loyalty to his friends, and despite the circumstances, was willing to stand up to the government to justify his beliefs. In hindsight, this film could have easily been Avengers 3, but with Cap the essential figure the film was built around, it was more of his story, which happened to feature a large cast of characters, each with their own subplot and the building blocks not just for the next Avengers movies, but the solo debuts of Black Panther and Spider-Man. It is fair to say that Civil War can get lost in the shuffle when compared to Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but in so many ways, it is a better movie than those two from an acting perspective and an emotionally driven character arc. Captain America Civil War is an amazing ensemble and a fitting way to end the Steve Rogers solo movie trilogy. New and established characters were introduced, there was a lot of hard-hitting action, there was the trademark Marvel humour, emotional arcs, and just an all-around amazing movie.
Smugface shines, they're a neon light. Content so slick, it'll make you grin every time you watch.